Welcome to the Up Your Average podcast, where Keith and Doug give no-nonsense advice to level up your life. So buckle up and listen closely to Up Your Average.
Live from a location near you. Welcome to the Up Your Average podcast. Keith, where are you?
I am at the Hyatt Place in downtown Evansville, just a block and a half from the $100 million Picasso.
Oh, nice,
Hey,
nice. There's Libby. Hey, I'm going to share this disclaimer for those of you who watch on TV. If you're not watching, I'm going to just let you know a few things. Look, Keith and I have opinions. We might be wrong. We might be right. But we're not going to be indecisive on our opinions. We've got opinions. And this content is provided for general information only. We're going to talk about things that are near and dear to our heart. And most of all, we're going to talk about you. So that's the quick disclaimer. Sometimes we talk about the stock market, indexes, S&P 500, NASDAQ, all of those things. And Gimbal is a registered investment advisor. And I am thankful for all that, Keith. There are times where I'll come in this office and I'll just be so thankful to be where we are. And so a lot of that has to do with you. And you came up with, boss, you came up with our topic of the day. You want to go ahead and bring us up to speed? What are we talking about today?
Well, I do. And when I think of upping your average, I think that it's never too late, right? Like no matter what your age is, you can always increase the quality of your life. You can always increase the quality of your friendships. You can always increase the existence that you have, no matter where you find yourself today. And that's kind of the motive of the name of our podcast. And I was at a social event last week and somebody asked me some questions that were kind of pertinent to their elderly parents not really responding to life in what seems like a mature manner. And I've dealt with that quite a bit through my career. And so then I wrote a long letter to this person offering some suggestions. And I just thought that'd be a good conversation. And it kind of made me think about our current anchor, the October anchor. There's an article in there called the Janitor and the Jump Shot, and with the, if you look at the most recent newsletters you see, I've started in the last couple, probably 6-12 months. If it's a lesson that I learned at a particular time in life, I put it in parentheses in the year. And so this particular one, I put it when I was 38, and kind of the lesson at the end of that article, was live well, my friends, knowing you're infinitely more valuable than what you do. And so this was a story about a friend of mine that taught me to shoot a jump shot after my basketball career was over. And so I found that to be a comical idea, that I was really good at the jump shot after I didn't really have any needs for it. And today I thought 7 spectacular shots. These are all, I think, driven around communication, Doug, and that honest communication can really be difficult. And because of that, I just wanted to kind of talk about some things that these spectacular jump shots that you can do. October 15th used to be the kickoff day of high school basketball. I don't know when it is now, but we're right around that time. It's basketball season. And I thought, let's just see what happens when we take some spectacular shots in life. And some of these may not be easy, depending on your situation, your life, and maybe your upbringing might make some of these more challenging for you. See if I can share the presentation with you here.
It's pretty fun. Keith came up with this topic and said, hey, what do you think? And the idea we had was Keith was going to lay out like his top 7. I was going to lay out my top 7. I didn't want to see Keith's. I didn't want to see them before I came up with mine. And so when I compared mine to Keith's, Keith, we had a lot of similarities going on, and so I'm looking forward to just supporting some of these thoughts that you have, and maybe even drawing out a couple key areas.
And I at first thought I thought of being a pessimist and not bringing an optimistic approach to this. Some of these things, they're just not fun to do. They're not comfortable. We don't want to do them. But I envision them like as the rock star. If you take you're taking the 3-pointer, the game winner. I used to, probably about 2-3 miles from here, there was a church parking lot that I learned to play basketball on, and I would be out there just pounding the asphalt by myself. Like, what I learned about basketball, it was hard. It was snowy days. My hands would be cold, and I just kept shooting and playing. And often I would do 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and then drain the winning shot to be the hero. And I think if you do a lot of these things, you're going to be a hero, is what I think. So
you did that out of the love for the game and the respect for the game. And I think that's the key ingredient to these 7 variables is just like, hey, this is out of the love I have for life. This is the love I have for my spouse or my kids or for the people I'm close to. The love of the game is really important.
And that's what I was saying earlier. It's never too late, I don't think, Doug. I think you can fire up your passion today. You could be sitting in an assisted living and feeling like nothing matters, but you can make a difference today. And so the first one of my 7, Doug, was choose your variables. I just thought you don't have a lot of variables in life that you can turn the dials on. You can have time, money, people, places, things. And I put fitness in there because that's one that I probably neglected for a while. And these variables, you can do them all in moderation. I don't think you can do them all like any one of. If you try any one of them to be your life, I think you're going to find a lot of problems. And
are you winning in one of these right now?
I don't want to sound arrogant. I think I'm winning.
I'm asking.
I think I'm winning in that whole balance of those right now. I don't feel like I'm neglecting anything in there, and I feel, just by the grace of God, that I've got I've talked about balance, and what I think balance is not a teeter-totter, but it's that chair behind you that when a top spins, it's when you spin a top, it can lean different ways, but it's in balance. And some of these things are going to, require, like if you're young in your career, you're going to probably have to give more time to your career, right?
Yeah, you're going to have to lean in places for sure.
Yeah, you're not going to have the money probably at that point. You're going to want the money, but the money can't come later, right? I don't think you can ever really.
True.
I think if you neglect the people, I think that's a major mistake. I don't.
That's that
one's. Yeah, that one, you're going to have to use your time to value the people.
Yeah.
What do you think about these things, Doug? Have you struggled in any of these?
Oh, yeah. I've definitely struggled in time management over the years. I'm just not gifted. Keith paid my way to go to a Dale Carnegie time management course, and I showed up a day in advance of it. That sounds... I mean, that's horrible. Showing up a day late would be worse, but I arrived a day early. So time management is a constant humbler for me, and I'm grateful for that. But I'm also grateful for a team. So if one of these variables is not your thing, surround yourself with good people, and they might shine in time management, or they might shine in fitness and encourage you to do something bigger than yourself.
Yeah, places is a big deal to me, Doug. Too. I'm a gypsy soul, I think, and I could be somewhere all the time just because I enjoy what different places bring to my experience. But that costs money too. So when I was 25-year-old stockbroker, I couldn't even pay rent. So the places I went to, they weren't much,
Yeah, that's great. That's great. What's number 6?
Number 6, baby. Redefine your worst case scenario. And I thought about that with what I was thinking on that, Doug, was your physical fitness, your health. Could be whatever. You could be in a bad situation, but making healthy decisions. I think I've heard a lot recently about the system that we live in forcing unhealthy decisions towards us. And so you when you're thinking about your health in that situation, what's that look like? Because if the person that I was talking to at the wedding last week, I think her mom was like 88. And I did a kind of a perplexity search on that, is what's your life expectancy as an 88-year-old woman? I think it was like 5 years, which 5 years is
Pretty
it's going to
good.
go that quick, right? But I rephrased the question and I said, what's the probability of an 88-year-old living to 90? And because it's the same idea, it's just thinking about it differently. And it's only a 50-50 chance of an 88-year-old getting to 90. And so there's some intentionality in that. And we've got a tool, and we can link the I think you can access this free of charge. We can link a website to the podcast. It's called 5 Wishes, and it's the unhealthy decisions is what this document does, Doug. It allows you to decide what happens when you're not healthy, and let your loved ones know. I don't know if have you ever had to make those decisions for a loved one, Doug? Like make their
Yeah.
health decisions?
Yeah. Yeah.
It's not fun.
Yeah, it's not fun. And for me personally, what it required was some outside help. It required a couple people who are really confident and experienced in their areas. And what that did, they basically transferred their confidence to me, and I was able to make a better decision.
Right. And those are things we can encourage you all with and help you with, and help you find professionals to even make some of those. I had to hire like a chemist specialist to look at my mom's drugs, to tell me which drugs we needed, which ones
I
are
remember
interacting badly. And so there's a lot of unhealthy decisions, which sounds weird, but like when your health is deteriorating, you need help in those decisions. But then there's healthy decisions. I was talking to my kids about, like, if you just walk 10 steps more today than you did yesterday, it's not going to be long before you're going to be healthier. And that's only baby steps, right? Like, or I think I might have told you, like, when I couldn't run a mile in my 40s, by my 50s, I was running 10 miles every year on my birthday. And it started with baby steps. So those are healthy decisions.
Yeah, that's cool. That's cool.
Yeah. So you guys can redefine whatever your world is. It doesn't matter. I don't think it matters if you're as fit as, as a Navy SEAL, or if you're sitting in a chair in an assisted living. You can redefine what that looks like. You have it right here
Yeah.
in yours.
Yeah, and a healthy decision today could be a better decision than what you thought a healthy decision was 5 years ago. And that comes from just learning more and talking with the right people.
One of my ex people that I follow on Twitter, it's weird calling it X, is Mike Webster. I don't know if you follow Mike or not. He is just a brilliant man. And he had a post last night that he is now 600 days making healthy decisions. And I just happened to see that last night. He's lost a good amount of weight, and he's living a lot better life. And he just said he looked at a picture of himself one day without his glasses and was judging somebody else who was obese, and he realized it was himself.
That's awesome.
When he started. Yeah. So it's just baby steps can make a difference. And then number 5, I put this one here, Doug. I don't know what you think about number 5. Designated drivers. I would like to think my kids, when they're teenagers, didn't drink and drive, but I would really want to encourage that kind of decision. If they did drink and drive, that they would have a designated driver. I made the mistake as a youngster of not knowing that, and I did make that mistake a time or two, and it was one of the most foolish things I ever did. But
Keith, if you were to Google, if you were to ask Perplexity or ChatGPT on the top 7 best financial decisions that you could make, this one wouldn't come up. And so it's decisions like this that could be so costly. Like what motivated you to put this one on there? Because this is unique. This is different.
Connie and I were driving down yesterday, and I was talking about this conversation you and I were going to have with her, and we were laughing about it's really important for your teenage kids, like for you and Caroline. Like you need, if we know people whose kids have gotten drunk driving accidents, and they could literally go to prison, right? Like I don't know what could screw up your financial situation any more than having a kid have that problem, right? Like, so, our friend Charlie Ward was telling me about a situation like this one time. I was heartbroken listening to it about it, but I was like, it took my breath away thinking that my kids might make that mistake, right? Like, and you could have all the wealth in the world and have all the things in place, and if you lost one of your kids because they made, or somebody took out your kid, right? Like, so it's a give and take thing.
Charlie is our good friend who's an attorney, and he's seen some stuff. If you need a friend, who's seen some stuff, I'll introduce you to him.
Yeah, no, and so that kind of traumatized my thoughts about it. But then I think for our maturing clients is they need a designated driver as well. That my mom did a hit and run because of her diabetic numbers were out of line, and she didn't know that she did a hit and run, and that traumatized me a bit. But I when I was talking to Connie, I drove down here to tell Mom that she had to quit driving, and it was probably one of the hardest things I ever did. But I did it for a lot of reasons. Like it's one of those 3-point shots that nobody in the family wants to do it, right? Like, it's a Caddyshack moment. On your deathbed, you'll have total consciousness. There's not going to be any reward.
That with a friend today. Hey, and you're so right on this, because if you have to wait for the obvious sign, that's when it's difficult. Like Grandma Winters, Keith, do you know what the obvious sign was that it was time to take her car keys away?
No.
She pulled out and T-boned a police officer. That was the obvious sign. Now, should we had that conversation before? Yeah. But but to muster up the courage, you got to be encouraged to go for it. Some of these things just aren't even seen, or they're like, well, my brother can deal with that, or I hate to hurt someone's feelings, and so just to have the courage to go for it. That's how you get the success and become the winner and win the game time shot.
My son-in-law was a military police, and so he knows all the kind of the stuff that happens in interpersonal relationships. I don't think a military base any different than, say, Evansville here. And we were just talking about things this week, and that Thanksgiving is usually the time of a lot of conflict. But why not use the Thanksgiving table and start the discussion?
Take the car keys right there.
Well, I'm not even saying that. I'm saying let's just throw the conversation out. Who's going to be your designated driver? Like, not who's going to be your designated driver.
Take Grandma's car keys right there.
Because you call the police 911. Then what I'm thinking is have the conversation. Who are you going to let take the? So when I'm saying designated driver for the older, who are you going to let take the keys from you? Like, that's the decision you have to make, because. So you've got to trust somebody enough that loves you enough that will tell you. Even my mom was not. I can tell you, my mom was angry. Like, she was angry at me when I told her that. But what do you do? Do you just not do it because somebody gets angry? And that's what I said at the beginning of this. Is it's conversations, communication. A lot of these things are hard communication. Like, I don't know if you want to sit around your dinner table with your teenage kids and talk about drunk driving, but I mean, you can't stop a kid from being a kid, but you can encourage them to make the wise decision, Doug.
Yeah, it's good. It's good. There you go. You're not going to get that on ChatGPT. What's for?
Final thoughts. This one you probably will.
Final thoughts, but not final thoughts. All right.
Yeah, and this one we just encourage you to do. Most people probably haven't done these things. They've done some of them.
Can we hit them real quick? Like, what is a will?
A will is that's the distribution of your assets. When you assume toast, is that what our friend Randy says? Or you go toes up or something? It distributes your assets. There's other ways we can help you, coach you through that. A trust is something that's more complicated that may or may not make sense for you. And that's, again, something we can help you with. A POA is a power of attorney. That's you picking a designated decision maker for you, like who's going to take care of your financial decisions, your health decisions. Obituary, that's pretty straightforward. I had my friend Scott Sipes ask me probably 15 years ago, have you written your obituary, Keith? And I thought, what is he talking about? And I realized what he was saying is that most people's obituary explains what they were about. And he said, what he was saying to me is, if you just write your obituary today, then you live towards what you're about. You're defining what you're about and not letting it happen. And obituaries are celebrations. I think you celebrate what you're about.
That's good.
Have
Hey,
you ever
Keith,
bought a funeral?
No, I haven't bought a funeral, and there's a difference between like helping somebody go through that process and actually doing it. My feeler isn't there. I don't know. I haven't.
My guess is if you buy it in advance, it's going to cost you 25% less
Yeah.
than if you wait until you need it. And we've got a friend, Donna here in Carmel, that can help you with that. And she's helped us with some friends and some family on that. And I'd encourage you to prepay it. It just takes that stress out. Like the family sitting around.
Do you prepay that? Like that's not on my radar. You know,
I mean, it doesn't matter because what they do is they buy an insurance policy, and so it just gets it done. But
it's not on anybody's radar.
No, it's a crazy decision to sit in the room and watch it go down if you haven't prepaid it, and
you would probably negotiate with the prepay funeral. I could see you negotiating for a deal.
I got a deal for my mom's funeral, I hate to say.
Hey, there's one thing that I don't see on here, Keith, and just this is part of the will. So in the will, you're going to have your POAs. A good attorney is going to help you do this. My advice is don't do this online. Get somebody who can go eyeball to eyeball. But a healthcare power of attorney, if the healthcare power of attorney is your spouse and your spouse is really not good at making decisive decisions, probably need to look for an alternative or have an alternative.
Yeah, absolutely. Guardians are for people your age or younger, Doug. Like that needs to be in the will. You need to define, absolutely. And that requires communication. Mike Jennings was a financial advisor I got in the business with, and part of how I've over the years trained other advisors around me is I've just introduced them to advisors that I know. And I took some advisors down to Bowling Green, Kentucky one year to meet Mike, and he had a Southern drawl to his thing, and he talked slowly, and he told us this crazy story that he was 16 and his twin brother got killed by a driver. He got killed in a car wreck, and his parents were at the hospital, but his little brother, his 12-year-old, was at home with him, and the parents called to tell him at 16 that his twin was dead. And they said, if you can just hang tight, we'll come home and tell your little brother. And he goes, no, I'm going to tell him. And he said, if something difficult needs to be done, it might as well be done by me. And that's about as intense as it gets. But for those final thoughts, man, anything you can do to get those in place and be you will sure save somebody. Next one I have is stuff management. Is you either own your stuff or don't you, and when, who, and why are you going to get rid of it? It's probably the questions you could ask yourself. What do you think about stuff, Doug?
Well, the first thing I think about when I see this slide deck is I see your book. Keith wrote a book to help people go through the process of losing a loved one or prepare even for a loved one losing you. and one of the chapters is stuff, and more stuff, or something like that, Keith. And the idea is clean out what's not important to you. And there's tricks, there's hacks. You can use AI to find some hacks, but I think just getting rid of some stuff, putting it on front porch pickup or whatever is a great idea.
Absolutely. I put it on their generational buttes because there's things that can become emotional, but if it's grandma's blah, 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 that gets really emotional.
I heard one yesterday. I was at the bank and the guy said he has 3 kids. Each kid has received a nutcracker for Christmas for the last 18 years.
Oh,
and he's like, none of them want their nutcrackers. So he was cleaning them out, and he's just looking at all these nutcrackers that were important to him, but they're not important to the kids. And so his hope is that each kid will take one.
And that may be another great holiday conversation, is talk about what really matters to your family members, because it may not be the stuff. It may be an experience. It may be at that table that really matters to them. And that may free you up to get rid of some of this stuff, because if it's in an attic, a basement, or a garage, you probably have an issue. You probably got to do like it's going to collect dust there. And
That's a great question. Where is it located?
Yeah. Uh, I pretty much, we were sitting in Malibu, California in 2006 on my sabbatical.
Now you're just bragging.
Yeah,
gee,
I was living large. and I walked into the office at the RV resort. And the lady asked me, "What's in the box you traveled across the country with that you don't have in the box at home?"
Wow.
that you need? Like, what's missing? And I thought about it, and like, there's really nothing. Like, everything we need is in the box we traveled with. And that really helped me quit collecting a lot of stuff. That was a long time ago. And so the stuff you need probably has eyeballs. That's probably the answer.
Go to 2, Keith. Let's keep rolling.
Number 2. Honest conversations.
Yeah.
This is kind of where you were. Why don't you jump into this one? This one was something you mentioned, Doug.
Well, yeah, just an honest conversation. And it starts with the one who's closest to the heart. And I think the best conversation can happen when you look at that person and you understand who they are. And they might do some things that just annoy you. They might have some habits. They might be habitual habit breakers or bad habit supporters. But when you can look at that person for who they are at the core, you can move beyond some of the things that just bug you. You can talk about them with less emotion. And so I think just building trust by conversation is a great start.
I think in conversations, asking questions is really a lot healthier than offering opinions too, because asking questions allows you to get to know the heart of the person you're hanging out with. And so when I put leadership topics here, I was looking at that one as more as a parent. Is there's probably honest conversations you need to have from cradle to exit point as a teenager, right? Like, there's topics that nobody else is going to tell your children. And so those topics you probably ought to define. A lot of times I'll ask young men, what are the top 2 or 3 things you want your kids to know before they leave your house? And that's nobody else is going to tell them those things, right?
I think one way to get an honest conversation going is to have celebrated somebody's success. If you see them having success in a certain area, or they just are a natural at a certain area, just saying, "Hey, what is it that you've done, or how did you build this up, or how did you do it?" Let them talk about their success and celebrate it with them. It's a great way to start off and build some trust. Oh, lastly, I see you put the legacy letter on there. Yeah. I had a great conversation with my friend Blake, who wants to join the Up Your Average podcast. And so the legacy letter, think of it as a way, just like a love letter to your spouse, or a love letter to your kids or your nieces, or the people that are important to you, and let them know. Let them know in a letter. You can give it to it today, or you could have it in your safe. You could do both. I mean, you could do multiple letters. A lot of great ways, but point is communicate to them.
I threw on reconciliation there too, Doug, because there's things that create conflict amongst generational things. And you can be, blessed are the peacekeepers. You can be the source of reconciliation in family conflicts. And a lot of times with time, the emotion of split can settle, but the people may not even remember exactly what. And to be a source of hope and reconciliation can go a long way.
What is the number one thing, Keith?
Number 1 coming at you. Purposeful Days. Today's the day. And I think the intentionality that you go about life will help the loved ones around you, so that everything you do is useful to their lives. I think if somebody said, what are you about, Keith? And I'd say the essence for me is I would like the world to be a better place because I walked on it. That's kind of my thing. So as I go about being a financial advisor, going out being a dad or a friend, that kind of is the point on the horizon. Is does this situation add any value?
There you have it, guys. That's the top 7 right there. And Keith, man, you're great at marketing. I don't know if you took like a marketing class at Murray State or who we need to write a thank you letter to, but this was fun. And I just appreciate everybody tuning in and joining us today. And if you want to go deeper, more like one-on-one, give Keith a shout or give me a shout. We can talk about it.
Yeah, I think this is a big deal. I think that you all are what matters to us. And if you jump into these things, I bet you'll have a great holiday season. I'll look forward to seeing you all soon. And I hope you guys can just keep making the most out of your days.